Hi, welcome to the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and comment your thoughts and opinions on the stories. Let's get started. Am I the antagonist for publicly telling off my cousin who claimed I had plastic surgery? Background: I have a cousin my age who I'm in contact with growing up, as our family likes to have many get-togethers. The part that makes me dislike her the most was the constant comments about my body. I'm very slim, and with small breasts. She grew to have CD cups even in high school. Throughout the years, she would always make comments such as, "So when do you think you'll finally grow out?" or "That shirt is more suitable for those with a chest." I tried to avoid her growing up, but couldn't completely as she is still close extended family. Cue a party that happened yesterday. My cousin and I are now in our 40s. I'm standing a few meters away from my cousin, who are with a bunch of friends and family. This was by a pool, and some of us were wearing swimwear, including me. One of the friends commented on my body, not in a mean way. She called my boobs perky. My cousin responded, almost word for word, "She probably got a breast lift. No way her boobs could be naturally that perky, and I'm pretty sure she starves herself to try and get ours." Her husband, who I have caught staring at me during get-togethers. Attention, none of that was true, and it annoyed me. I never have had breast augmentation. I actually eat quite a bit, like 5 meals a day, and I certainly don't care to go after her husband. The fact she was making all these incorrect claims in front of people about my own body pissed me off and embarrassed me. So I went up to them and I said, verbatim, to her, "I have never had plastic surgery in my life. Nor do I starve myself. I eat what I want. Don't make false claims about me. That's gross. Also, I couldn't care less what Al thinks of me. He's not my type." And walked away. Most people are on my side, but I have had DMs in Facebook and Instagram from her and some of her close friends that I was extremely rude, that I was lying about my boobs, and that I publicly embarrassed her. At a minimum, I should have talked to her in private. Although to me, if she was gonna make false claims in front of people, I had a right to call her out in front of the people and correct those false claims. So am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. NTA. She's allowed to be rude and nasty, and you're not allowed to defend yourself. If she says anything in the future, just tell her you don't engage in middle school level mean girl discussions, and pretend she doesn't exist. Totally not the a-hole. She is jealous. NTA. She made comments about you in public and then wants to take it in private when she realized she was being mean? No. And she continues to insist you had a breast lift, which isn't something to shame someone over anyways. I think she is just a little jelly of you. The funny thing about the breast lift comment is that, if op is smaller, they probably just haven't sagged as much over time, as cousins' larger breasts are heavier, so they tend to drop more. At least that seems to be true from my observations as a larger woman. So calling out the jealousy here is likely correct, and in a way cousin sag is pretty much karma for the flat chest bullying. Am I the antagonist for throwing away my BF's drink? I went over to my boyfriend's house. I brought us snacks to eat during the day while we worked, hung out and watched TV. At lunchtime I pull out my tub of pasta and a can of Sprite, opening my drink in front of my BF. He instantly took my drink off of me and threw it in the bin, while smiling and saying it's unhealthy for me and that I should drink water. I asked him why he did that, and he said he was looking out for me. I asked him if that meant he would no longer drink or do drugs then, and he said he would do anything for me. Out of annoyance I said, "When you won't need this," and threw a bottle of port into the bin. I did it knowing he could just take it out again, but the bottle cracked as the bin was empty, beer spilling out. My BF got upset because he had spent extra on getting a nice bottle of party at the weekend, and as he is between jobs, buying another wasn't an option. I offered to buy him a new one, but he basically said that I had been petty and out of line doing that out of spite, while he did it out of care for me and my health. Now I'm wondering if maybe I did retaliate too hard. He has never done anything like that to me before in 5 years of being together. So I'm starting to feel like maybe I did overreact to losing a 1 Sprite can. It's been a week and things are fine between us, but I've still been thinking about the whole interaction. My friends are split, Some say he was out of line and the others say I was. TL. Dr. Boyfriend threw my fizzy drink away. In retaliation I threw away a bottle of port, which broke in the bin. My boyfriend is upset because what I did was out of spite and what he did was from care. Now I'm feeling like maybe I went a bit over the top. Edit. So firstly I want to say thank you to everyone who sent advice. Help me look at things from different angles. I do appreciate it. Where I stand with my boyfriend. Me and him are okay. He's never done something like this before, and I have specifically told him this is not behavior I accept. Now, if he crosses that boundary in this way or any similar way, I will know he doesn't respect me, rather than this being a one-off dumb thing. Now, I understand all the people who instantly say dump him. I get where you are coming from, and without any other details on the relationship, of course most people would call for that. Especially when some have been in horrible situations. But what isn't okay is the amount of DMS I've gotten and messages I've gotten assuming things. In the past few hours I've been told I'm a sking deserve to be abused if I don't leave him now. That I'm funding my BF drug habit. That he is with me for money. That soon I'll be beaten and make excuses for him then. My personality type seems to be the abusey kind. That he's cheating on me. The list goes on and on. I appreciate the input, but no more abuse in DMS. Thank you. Now for the top comments. What he did was not out of care, it was out of control. The price of the items are irrelevant to the issue, which is that he tried to police what you were consuming. If you had accepted his behavior, I think he likely would have continued. What else would he have decided you were no longer allowed to have, when instead, you reacted as you did? He pulled back. Maybe he'll pull something similar in the future. I hope not. But don't forget this. NTA. Concern for your health my patity. Nobody has any right to snatch and then throw another adult's food or drink away unless said adult was about to accidentally consume something toxic or contaminated. NTA. NTA. Although I think that you may want to be careful to watch out for any more controlling behavior from him. Even if he claims it's in your best interest. Seemingly harmless actions like this can be the beginning of manipulation and abuse. Look after yourself. Am I the antagonist for getting my neighbor's cars towed? So my neighbors had a get together last night. There were a bunch of people and a bunch of cars. I don't know how this even crossed their minds. But 2 of the cars were parked in my driveway. One in the driveway itself. The other half on the curb. Half on the driveway. I found out because when my girlfriend pulled up to the house, she couldn't park in the driveway. So she parked further down on the curb. I immediately called a tow truck and got both cars towed. After midnight, we are both in bed and the doorbell rings. Neighbor is at the door. Without greeting, demands to know where the cars are. I told them they got towed. Dude loses his shit. 3 people that were standing further back who I assume the cars belonged to are also mad. One of the dudes comes over, starts getting in my face. I told them, I'll happily call the cops if they don't get off my property. They are seething but leave. Next morning, phone is blowing up. Neighbors asking what happened. Some telling me to check FB in next door. I think he spent the night posting. Because there is a whole dissertation about what an asshole I am. Poor neighbor wanted to get together with his closest friends. And what's the big deal if they parked in my driveway without asking me? Anyway, neighbors seem in agreement. Fuck this dude. He hosts get-togethers a lot. And frequently our street is filled with cars around his house. So it makes driving dangerous. Strictly speaking, I didn't need to tow the cars. My GF parked on the curb. I wasn't going to drive that night. Could have let it slide. If they asked me, I would have let them park there. But the audacity of people to park in the middle of my driveway demanded action in my eyes. Am I the antagonist? Edit. For people asking, I didn't talk to them first. It kind of goes without saying. Don't block people's driveways and definitely don't park in one. I'm not a new neighbor. I've been here for almost 2 years. I'm cordial with all my neighbors. Friendly with some. This particular one is straight out of Central Casting 4. That one jerk neighbor. Brags about his cars and boats. Talks shit when his team wins. Gets angry at everyone when they lose. Can't handle losing in poker. But will tell you about it if he wins. Now for the top comments. NTA, this sets the precedent going forward that parking in your driveway is unacceptable behavior and won't be tolerated. Play stupid games and win stupid prizes. I'm kind of perplexed on why some would think I owed them a warning. Surely blocking someone else's driveway doesn't deserve a warning? That's clearly wrong. No ambiguity. No warning needed. They deserved it. But put cameras around your property, because I wouldn't put it past those assholes to try to vandalize your property or cars. I bet even if you talked to them first, that guy would have refused. Not the a-hole. Am I the antagonist for leaving my boyfriend on the side of the road? I 26 female and my boyfriend Nick 27 male have been dating for almost a year, and something that has always bothered me is how Nick does not believe in maintaining or taking care of his vehicles. Background: to give some context, Nick bought his car brand new about 5 years ago and has put about 70,000 miles on the vehicle. Since purchasing the vehicle he has never had an oil change, nor does he do any kind of regular maintenance. I would like to clarify by saying Nick's refusal to maintain his vehicle is not due to any kind of financial insecurity. Nick has an incredible job that pays him very fairly. As a hobby and side job, I like to restore vehicles for a profit. I'm by no means a mechanic, I mostly clean up the vehicles, do bodywork and paint restoration. However, I do have a pretty fundamental understanding of cars and I know how to do the basics. Story: Nick called me yesterday on my day off and told me he was about 10 minutes from my house and that he had a flat tire and asked if I could come to help him out. I grabbed my tool bag and headed out. When I got there, Nick did not only have a flat tire, but his front left rotor was cracked. Rotor is part of the car's brakes, and his rim was bent to hell. I was telling Nick that his car was undrivable and that he needed to call a tow. Nick started arguing with me, telling me that it was just a flat tire and that it was not a big deal. I tried showing Nick how bad the damage was, but he insisted I was overreacting and that he just needed me to change the tire. I refused, and in Nick's own words, I started mothering him on how poorly he takes care of his car. The argument got heated, and Nick lashed out at me and started saying things like, "Just because you have a set of pink tools and watch YouTube doesn't make you a fucking mechanic." After Nick said this, I started to pack up my tools and told him that he was right. I'm not a mechanic, but that he should probably call one because I'm not changing his tire. I left Nick on the side of the road and he refuses to talk to me until I apologize for abandoning him. Am I the asshole? Now for the top comments. NTA. He has a lot of nerve. Picking a fight with someone he called for help. Right. My thoughts exactly. The lack of respect is mind-blowing. Sadly, his reaction isn't uncommon. If anything, I'm a bit surprised he called her for help. It was probably a hit to his ego though, so he took it out on her. I've been there, and Op deserves better. Op, as a fellow woman who loves cars, I ask you to strongly consider what you want out of your relationship. Your knowledge of cars, and how it helped you bond with his father, is a breeding ground for resentment. I can't tell you how many times women of all ages said how guys must love my passion for cars, and how eligible sweeties must be lining up whenever any guy a bit older than me found out I did the work on my car myself. More often than not, they'd ask if my father didn't have a son. You know, since the only way we would get into cars was if our father forced it on us. Both versions reinforce that cars are man's domain. Cars are still commonly thought of as something guys intrinsically know. If they don't, some asshole will give them shit. If they have a girlfriend that knows her way around cars, now the assholes will say how he must be the girl in the relationship, needing help like a damsel in distress. As much as I wish it didn't, that kind of thing can get to some guys. All too often they end up taking it out on the relationship. Op, you deserve someone who will see your skills as a wonderful piece of who you are as a whole. I got lucky and married a master tech I first met when he joined the car club my friends and I started. He loved telling his coworkers I loved cars even more than him. I'm not saying you have to find someone in the car industry. I think you should have someone that will happily speak highly of your skills though. NTA. He's put 70,000 miles on his car and has never changed the oil? WTF. I'm amazed the car still runs. If you like to work on cars, then you won't want to be with someone that's that cavalier about car repair and maintenance. And that's unforgivable of him to insult you like that with the pink tools comment. I think it's time to leave the boyfriend, and not just his car, by the side of the road. Am I the antagonist for not telling my wife my kids didn't want her to adopt them? My late wife died 6 years ago, when our kids were 3, 5 and 6. I remarried 18 months ago, and my wife has known my kids for 3 years now. She had brought up adoption to me about 2 weeks before we got married. She told me she would love to ask the kids their feelings after the wedding and maybe start the process when we legally could, which is 6 months into our marriage. What I never told her is my kids had already expressed to me that they were worried about being adopted and didn't like the idea. This was prior to me getting engaged. My oldest was the one with the strongest concerns because he remembers his mom the most. But none of the kids liked the idea that they would no longer have their mom's name on stuff, i.e. their birth certificate and other documents. I reassured them it would never happen, as long as they were against it. Honestly, I know my late wife would have wanted them to be loved, but would have also hoped for an adoption not to take place. She herself struggled with her father being erased by the time she was 2. He died before she was born, and when her mother chose to remarry they chose to act like she was her stepfather's, who adopted her biological child. She only learned the truth as an adult, and I know it terrified her while she was sick that she would be replaced, especially when our youngest baby was too young to remember anything about her. I ended up telling my wife no, and we discussed it for a while actually. She was upset, but didn't push it. Then a few weeks ago her parents asked us about her adopting the kids. They said we all appear to get along really well, and how sweet of a gift it would be to her and the kids. I said it wasn't something we were going to do. They ended up asking the kids afterward, and my youngest was the one who said they didn't want to be adopted, and I knew. Which then got back to my wife. She was pissed I never told her. She said she was never given a chance to see if we could figure out a way to do it that would make them happy. I said I didn't see any reason to talk them around, that they are allowed to feel that way. Her thinking we could convince them is part of the reason I never told her. I never wanted it to be something that needed fixing, because there's nothing wrong with how they feel. I also figured it would hurt less. That coming from me, at least we could have an adult conversation about it, but she could feel like the kids were rejecting her. Her family said I should have told her, and we should have worked on a solution with the kids together. I said no solution was needed. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. The children came up with a solution. They do not want to be adopted, and she and her family need to respect how they feel and back off. Ethernet the a-hole forgot to put a judgment. You forgot your judgment. NTA. And you are absolutely correct. This does not need to be resolved or fixed. It needs to be accepted. I'd argue this is a situation that needs to be fixed or resolved, but not by the children conceding to an unrelated adult's feelings, but that adult respecting their mother's place in their lives and hearts, and not trying to erase her. But Op and the kids are not the a-hole, and wife and her family absolutely are. NTA for supporting your kids' choice. This is an extremely sensitive matter, and pushing them to change their minds like your wife and her family want is plain wrong. I mean, nothing is fixed in time, and maybe in the future your kids will change their mind on their free will, or maybe they will not. This doesn't mean they could haven't a good relationship with their stepmom. The only mistake you did was not to explain the real reason to your wife. Because you wanted to avoid an unpleasant discussion, you just had to stand your ground. My kid said no. End of it. But a marriage is full of unpleasant discussion. Going behind your partner's back or amid important facts is never a solution. Am I the antagonist for telling my mum I'm putting her in a nursing home? This happened around 3 hours ago, while me and my family were at my grandparents' house for a Sunday BBQ. Things were going well. Everyone was happy. Then we moved on from the meat and onto the dessert. I asked for a slice of meringue cake and sat down. I realized I forgot cream and went back. My mum then started making comments about what I was eating and my weight. Oh great, more calories. You better calm down on that. Don't wanna ruin prom for you and everyone, do you? To desert my name. Right, save some for everyone else. Watch it. or we'll have to roll you out of here. Those were all the things she said. She said it in front of everyone. Around 6 people. I got mad. Like super upset. At first I tried ignoring it. Saying stuff like bit rude or okay calm down. But the more she kept saying shit, the more mad I got. I snapped and said, you know this is why I'm going to put you in a nursing home. Everyone went silent and I got yelled at. We went home early for embarrassing my mum. I don't feel bad for what I said, but I do feel like an asshole. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. NTA, I'm going to bet this isn't the only toxic behavior you deal with your mom. In a toxic family, what you see in public is often just the tip of the iceberg. I'm guessing you're still in high school by the prom comment. I'm in my 30s and no longer speak to any of my family. Toxicity has its limits. I wish you the best in dealing with a mom like that. I've already told my parents I'm putting them in the worst home I could find, not the a-hole op, and I hope you can get away from your mom one day. You know the saying, if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen. If she doesn't want you to make rude comments, she should keep her rude comments to herself, not the a-hole. Mom wants to have her cake and eat it too. NTA. And now I want meringue pie.